Another day, another recap. This movie on demand today is none other than The A-Team. This action thriller film will take you through some awesome twists and turns, so enjoy. The movie kicks off in a desert somewhere in Mexico where a man is being beaten up. The man refuses to talk and the two corrupt officers go to kill him. They click the trigger and it seems the gun is missing the firing pin. One of the cops tells the other to stop and says their dogs have been lazy lately. They laugh at the tied-up man and say he bribed the wrong cops, and the prisoner simultaneously uses a pin on the handcuffs as dogs come racing in. He frees himself, picks up the gun, and goes into the dark where the dogs squeal and walk into the light, handcuffed to each other. The prisoner turns out to be Colonel Hannibal Smith, and it seems he has placed a tracker onto the cash the cops took. Elsewhere in Mexico, a cop chase is in progress, and police try and catch a car that makes its way to a mechanic shop, and out steps Bosco B.A. Baracus. There, Chop Shop Jay speaks with him and there seems to be some dispute. A fight breaks out, and Bosco easily takes care of the other men until one deadly assassin makes his way onto the scene. Not kidding, the directors didn't give him any plot armor. Jay begins begging Bosco to let him be, but Bosco's right hand thinks otherwise. He reunites with his gorgeous wife who he dearly misses. And with that, the scene jumps to Lieutenant Faceman Peck. The enemy general believes he is an informant for the American military, and beats him senseless until we move back to Hannibal. He stops on his escape and sees a van driving through some distance away. He ends up right in front of it and stops it. Bosco is then held at gunpoint, and Hannibal wants the van. He refuses to give it to him, and Hannibal grazes his shoulder. Hannibal then jumps in the passenger seat and sees an Army Ranger tattoo, and Bosco says if Hannibal utters a bad word about his battalion, he's dead. Instead, Hannibal shows him his own tattoo and announces himself. Bosco knows who he is and tells Hannibal that he was discharged. Elsewhere, the dirty cops give their general Hannibal's money, and the tracker goes off and the van follows it. The general says goodbye to his prisoner but spots the tracker as the van comes flying in and smacks an assailant. Hannibal jumps out and starts firing and pushes Face. He takes off in the van and catches his friend down the hill. The three are safe for now, and Face laughs at both Bosco and Hannibal. Bosco shows Face his army tattoo and Face thanks him for his service. Their enemies are prepping for a battle with the three as they go to a U.S. Army medical facility. They link up with a man named Pike who takes the van off them and alerts them that their pilot is inside. The three men go inside the medical facility, and Hannibal walks off to find their pilot. In the meantime, we are introduced to Captain H.M. Murdoch. Hannibal is briefed that their pilot is a functioning madman, and he is not 100% there. Murdoch stitches Bosco in the meantime with a lightning bolt, and a nurse suddenly walks in their room and alerts the others that Murdoch is a patient here and escaped the ward. The two spot the lightning bolt stitching and begin going off at Murdoch until Hannibal jumps in and approaches the patient. He tells him that he will be reinstated into the Army Rangers and released into his care as they need a pilot. As their enemy pull up to the front, the team jump on the hospital rooftop where they are not convinced in trusting Murdoch. But as the enemy comes to the roof, they are forced to defend themselves and fly off. A military chopper comes from behind them though, and wow, does Murdoch know how to fly. Murdoch needs to escape and the enemy shoots a missile, but yet again he does another amazing stunt, and Hannibal gets into contact with the enemy general and tells him that he is attacking U.S. personnel. The general says they attacked him, but when they cross into the U.S. border, the enemy helicopter is shot down within seconds, and this was a first mission success for the A-Team. 80 successful missions, and 8 years later at the FOB Headhunter in Iraq, the troops are withdrawing and a chopper lands on the ground. A woman is escorted towards the A-Team, and she stares at Face. Her name is Carissa, and she seems to have some sort of beef with Face. Hannibal then arrives at the base, returning from a solo mission. He is then approached by Lynch, who works for the CIA. He alerts Hannibal to a rogue group about to steal $1 billion in the next 24 hours. It seems that during the Iran-Iraq War, an American minting machine went missing. Even though the A-Team retrieved the machine, they never found the engraving plates, which is causing a group of renegades to print over $1 billion. They plan on moving the money and engraving plates out of Baghdad. Carissa in the meantime tells off Face and makes him understand that she will court-martial the A-Team if they dare to enter Baghdad. She walks off and tells her right-hand man that the A-Team are the best in the business. Meanwhile, General Morrison tells Hannibal he will not let him do the mission as they have been ordered out of Baghdad. Lynch tells the general he'll be back in 48 hours and leaves. Hannibal then has a one-on-one with the general, who tells him to stay clear of the mission. Hannibal persists, and as a dear friend, Morrison commends the A-Team as the best team he's ever seen. but actually begs his friend to refuse the mission. But eventually he gives Hannibal his blessing to go ahead. Outside, he links up with another squad led by Pike. The two squads seem to be having some beef, and Pike secretly tells his crew the A-Team just done them a big favor. Later, Hannibal and his team prep for the mission, and after 3 hours, Carissa asks her men if the A-Team has left, and they tell her no. She thinks something is fishy though, and goes inside their tent to discover dummies dressed up as the men. Carissa is not happy one bit, and that's when the A-Team get to work and begin stealing some weird items from all around the base. After stealing and some more stealing, Bosco begins making something from the products the boys acquired. Murdoch begins playing Braveheart, and they have a night with the general who wishes them a safe journey. The following day, Carissa walks into the general's office and asks him where Hannibal is. When he tells her to watch her attitude and tone towards him, she softens up a bit and makes it clear that the A-Team has clearly defied orders to not enter Baghdad, and she storms off. The A-Team in the meantime plan the exact route the $1 billion in engravings are taking. Their enemies are locked and loaded and will shoot at anything in their sights. Face's point of entry is from underneath a hotel. There he opens up his bag and begins clicking objects into place to open a sewer tunnel. Bosco is given a motorcycle and Murdoch has his own helicopter. Face escapes the sewer and waits until the truck drives past him and he magnets onto the vehicle. He throws road spikes which takes out the armed truck behind him. That's when Bosco jumps into action and takes out another vehicle and begins smacking out the hostiles on the truck. He manages to start driving the vehicle and Hannibal ziplines his way to save Bosco and grab Face. They divert the truck and need to get it out of Baghdad, but their enemies fire shots at them. Face returns fire and so does Bosco. Their wheel is shot at though and they drive the truck through an exit where Murdoch takes out their pursuers. Murdoch then drops a hook and the helicopter begins flying away with the cargo. And that is another mission success. The general gives the helicopter the all-clear to land and Lynch hears this. Upon touchdown, Bosco loses it as he's stuck inside. The boys play with him and finally set him free. They discover all that cash, and the general pulls up and then his truck suddenly explodes. Everything around them starts blowing up and Pike is spotted killing his own men then taking off. Hannibal then looks at the carnage around him as Carissa pulls up. Following this, she is demoted from her rank. And as there is no direct order from the now dead General Morrison, Hannibal is being tried as well as his men. As they are told the only person that can confirm there was a mission is now deceased, they have no choice but to make a judgment. Face has an argument with Hannibal, who says they are to clear their names and then find Pike and the plates. The judgments set for the 4 men are as follows. They are all guilty and will be held in incarceration in separate maximum security facilities for up to 10 years, and all are dishonorably discharged. 6 months later, in an army confinement facility, Hannibal gets a friendly visit from Lynch, who tells him everybody thinks the A-Team is working with Pike, except him. Lynch shows Hannibal a photo of Pike in Frankfurt, and Hannibal has his own photo and believes he knows where Pike is. He assures Lynch that if he cleans their records and reinstates them, he will do the job. Lynch says he cannot legally get them out of there and Hannibal presents him a message for the boys in the CIA to help him. Within days, Hannibal receives his package and lights it up, which leads him to the crematorium as he has faked his death. But seconds before being incinerated, he awakens and escapes. Back to Face, he has managed to rizz up every person in the building and they let him do as he pleases. He goes to his tanning machine and works out in it until a man locks him inside. Carissa is then reinstated to find Hannibal and the plates they have been suspected to have stolen. Face is then set free by Hannibal, who says he was 1 week away from a parole hearing and begins fighting him. Carissa, in the meantime, is at the prison where she discovers that the cameras and everything else was not working when Hannibal received a surprise visitor. After inspecting the package delivered to Hannibal, there is a massive suspicion that the CIA may have broken him out. Carissa also finds the image of Pike and the plates, and Hannibal convinces Face to join the mission. Bosco in the meantime sees a message saying go to the emergency exit. He goes there, and Hannibal shoots a cable that allows Bosco to escape. The trio then head to a diner where Bosco tells his men he has made a vow to never kill again. They are confused but respect his wishes regardless. Now comes the last member of the A-Team. Back in a psych ward, he goes about his time until the ward receives a gift that contains 3D glasses. He grabs one of the men to hand the glasses to each person inside the ward. The lot of them scream for a movie to be played and Murdoch hides when he sees Carissa. He fakes like he is not able to understand a word that is spoken to him, and the other men search the place. Carissa then has a look at the TV and a vehicle breaks through the wall behind it. Murdoch jumps onto the truck and they drive away, the bulletproof armor allowing them an easy escape. They head to the nearest aircraft they can find, and Hannibal's charm allows him access to the plane. Murdoch gets the aircraft ready for takeoff, and Carissa stands in its way. She quickly changes her mind and puts her car in reverse as Murdoch destroys all jets nearby. When he gets room, he takes off the ground and gives Carissa a scare. Within seconds, he tells the men there is some turbulence up ahead, but their problems are worse when they are shot at. Murdoch uses the flares to escape and the missiles continue, but this time the plane's right engine is on fire. Another missile smacks right into the hull and parachutes are spotted on an army tank in the air. The bombardment doesn't stop there though, and Face decides to go on the offensive. Murdoch laughs at the panicking Bosco, and Face takes out a jet but loses a parachute. The A-team falls straight to the ground and the team fires shots from the tank to move them towards water. Carissa cannot believe them, and the team keep on doing it until they shoot down the other jet and fire multiple blasts downward to slow their momentum. And finally, they shoot until they land safely in water below. Lynch is immediately told what happened and the tank exits the water unscathed. Later, Carissa gets a visual of Hannibal's visitor in prison and remembers seeing him in Baghdad. She immediately gets into contact with Lynch, and as you can expect, Lynch denies everything, but Carissa makes sure to leave a threat before ending. Lynch tells his man he wants taps on all of Carissa's movements and devices from this point forward. It also appears that both the teams looking for Pike immediately find out his destination and head to Frankfurt Central Station. It seems Hannibal intentionally tipped off Carissa, knowing that Lynch would have her killed. And he is right, but Carissa also figures this out, and Face intervenes, which saves her life. He tells her that his team is innocent, and she does not believe him. He makes sure she understands that he would not risk his life to save her unless he was innocent. On his way out, he fires shots, and which causes enough of a distraction to leave. Elsewhere, the Arab men purchasing the engravings are with Pike and his men. The lot of them head to the bank for their final transaction and they are completed business. Bosco, though, opens a hole in the window for Hannibal to go in. He concusses every man inside and throws the Arab outside the window where Murdoch catches him. Hannibal then shoots the case free and grabs it. He is shot at though, and the plates drop onto the street. Bosco drops from the other building to grab it and Pike continuously shoots at him until he stops. Eventually though, he makes his way onto the ground level and grabs the case with bullets flying around him. He then makes his way to a car park where Pike's continual fire finally hits. Bosco and Pike get into a mad fight with each other and ends up with Bosco holding Pike at gunpoint. But his new oath doesn't allow him to kill, and so instead Hannibal gives Bosco the opportunity to escape without killing. Pike is relentless though, but nonetheless it has no impact, and Pike is held at gunpoint by Carissa and other authorities and is arrested. The A-team then make their distance from the chaos and begin speaking to the man bagged up. Hannibal speaks to their prisoner as if he knows him. The team is really confused until Hannibal rips open the bag to reveal it is General Morrison. Face looks at Morrison, and they all taste the feeling of betrayal. Hannibal believes that Morrison, Pike, and Lynch were making a play on the plates, but Morrison and Pike betrayed Lynch as they suspected he'd betray them. Face has a zero-tolerance threshold for betrayal and wants to kill Morrison, but Hannibal stops him and immediately gets on a call with Lynch. He wants to swap the plates for contracts of amnesty for his entire team, and Lynch agrees, but his computer doesn't. Hannibal records this call, and Morrison begins explaining how the army betrayed his sacrifices over the years. Hannibal has lost all respect for his former general and tells him death is too easy for him. Hannibal then speaks to his men outside when they hear an aircraft approaching. They run off as a gunship obliterates the entire facility in seconds, and Lynch is very happy to see his plan working. In the meantime, Carissa questions Pike and Lynch does not want that conversation happening. Pike confesses he is not working with Hannibal and Lynch immediately makes his way into the office and hands them an extradition order. With that he takes Pike, and the scene jumps to the A-team surviving once again. They are real pissed at what just happened and grab the plates. Face tells the team he has Lynch figured out and needs 20 minutes. In the meantime, Lynch gloats that he beat Pike and Morrison, and his man aims a silenced pistol at Pike. With not much left to lose, Hannibal radios Carissa and says he has Morrison in his possession, aware that Lynch would be listening in. Pike almost breaks free until he is held at gunpoint by Lynch, who is then handed a phone intercepting Hannibal's call. Hannibal says he has Morrison's testimony and the plates but wants a civilian retrial. Lynch kicks around like a toddler and Carissa agrees and sets a time and location for the exchange. Lynch turns to Pike and asks if he wants a second chance. He says sure thing. Face then calls Carissa from her private number and she answers him. Later on we see the A-team clearing their way through an airport, disguised as quite some interesting characters. They board an aircraft and fly through the day and into the night. The team begin making some stuff and they break and make whatever is in sight, getting ready for the fight ahead. At the port of Los Angeles, Lynch's men watch and are ready to kill. Face knows that they are there and says it's showtime. Lynch spots Hannibal and gets his men into position. Hannibal then takes a phone call and both he and Carissa go off at one another as Carissa says there has been a change of plans. Lynch is listening in, and when the call ends, Hannibal grabs a fake Morrison in the briefcase and walks off as Lynch's man shoots and misses. Face then lifts up 3 look-alike containers and begins juggling them around. He then launches a distraction where fireworks go off and 2 cars drive out of containers. Lynch buckles and doesn't listen to Pike, who tells him to stay put. Lynch's men fire at the vehicles until both flip over. The men rush towards both cars and discover them empty. The A-team then light off fireworks to a gas trail, causing both cars to explode and kill all the men on the ground. Pike gets annoyed at Lynch's team and kills off 2 snipers. He follows this by grabbing a rocket and puts a massive hole in the cargo boat. The ship begins blowing up on itself and containers go flying. Bosco barely makes it out alive and the other 3 men are on their own. Pike shoots again, and Face hangs on for dear life. He manages to get to the ground and Pike makes his way around and starts firing at him. Face returns fire, but Pike has the high ground, which is a problem. This leads to Face being held at gunpoint until Bosco does a mad stunt to save his teammate. He then grabs Pike and kills him, breaking the vow he had made earlier. Lynch meanwhile walks around looking for the plates he desires so bad. He can hear Hannibal calling his name, which echoes all around. Then suddenly, Hannibal appears and the 2 of them fight. Lynch is not as weak as he looks and he once again gloats on how he won. Morrison speaks and says do not do this, clearly a recording, but Lynch kills Morrison with Hannibal's gun and laughs at him. He opens the suitcase to find the plates he desires so badly, and now Hannibal gets serious. Within seconds he disarms and hurts Lynch, and laughs that he really is weak. But Lynch finds a gun on the floor and shoots Hannibal in the chest, out of nowhere. Morrison sits up and begins speaking again. But then the cargo container lifts up and the entire A-team and police department is there, looking right at Lynch. He is immediately arrested, and it turns out Morrison was Murdoch wearing a somewhat helmet he manufactured to protect himself. Carissa then chucks Face a sly look, and the A-team reunite with each other. When morning appears, so do the problems. A man tells Carissa that her prisoner is to be remanded into federal custody. The man tells the A-team that the CIA extend their sincerest apologies and introduces himself as Lynch. But their problems aren't over yet. The army rushes onto the scene and immediately arrests the A-team as Director MacReady looks at the mess and says he has to charge the A-team for escaping lawful custody. Carissa argues with him, but he wants this problem off his desk, and the A-team are still level 10 fugitives. She walks to Face and speaks with him. Inside the truck, the men laugh at Face for how bad his plan turned out. He laughs at them and spits out a key. The men cannot believe it, and that's the end. The men do turn out to be vigilantes to help people after they escape again, and I do hope you smash that subscribe button to help me out. Thank you and see you on the next one.